There are two types of study in epidemiology. One is observational and the other is experimental. In observational, we can find analytical and descriptive studies. Descriptive study is limited to description. It's often the first step in epidemiological investigation. Descriptive data in reports of health studies are a useful source of ideas for epidemiological studies. They are usually based on mortality statistics and may examine patterns of death by age, sex, or ethnicity during specific time periods or in various countries. This type of study is useful for generating hypotheses, can also be done by comparing population in different places at the same times or in a time series, by comparing the same population in one place at different time. Biased results, if inappropriate conclusions, are drawn on the basis of ecological data. The case control study is retrospective because the data deal with the past. The investigator is looking backward from the disease to a possible cause. The studies compares the occurrence of the possible cause in cases and in controls. Cases are the people with the disease, and controls are the people without the disease. A case control study begins with the section of cases, and the cases are selected on basis of the disease. Exposure status of cases determined after the development of the disease. This is a retrospective data. The association of an exposure and a disease relative risk in this study is measured by calculating the odds ratio. The cohort studies, or follow-up, begin with a group of people who are free of disease. The study are classified according to exposure to a potential cause of disease or outcome. This study is longitudinal. Provide the best information about the causation of the disease and the most direct measurement of the risk of development disease. This type of study require long periods of follow-up since the disease may occur a long time after exposure. In situations with sudden acute exposures, cohort studies are also used to investigate late or chronic effects. Experimental epidemiology attempting to change a variable in one or more groups of people. The effects of intervention are measured by comparing the outcome in the experimental group with that in a control group. Randomized controlled trials study the effects of a particular intervention, usually a treatment for a specific disease. Usually look at treatment for a specific disease. Involve people who are healthy but presumed to be at risk. The purpose is to prevent disease that may occur with relative low frequency. In this form of experiment, the treatment groups are communities rather than individuals. This is particularly appropriate for diseases that are influenced by social conditions, and for which prevention efforts target group behavior. There are three sorts of random error. 1. Individual biological variation. 2. Sampling error. And 3. Measurement error. The best way to reduce is to increase the size of the study. The sample size must be large enough for the study to have sufficient statistical power to detect the difference deemed important. The following information is needed before the calculation can be done. The precision of a study can also be improved by ensuring that the groups are of appropriate relative size. It is important to ensure that there is sufficient similarity between cases and controls when the data are to be analyzed. Systematic error is particular hazard because 1. Epidemiologists usually have no control over participants in studies. 2. It's difficult to obtain representative samples of such populations. And 3. Some variables of interest are difficult to measure.